Okay, we got some time. I just wanted to my second take. I'm definitely not a vlogger because I don't have any of the. I don't like the term vlog. It's like there's either a person who is a film uh, a web video maker. They used to call it something else. There was no such thing as vlog. But whenever you uploaded your own personal videos online, you would never call it a vlogger because the internet thing is very much random and never has been stabilized and easy to predict. And here today, gone tomorrow. As much as people want to live their lives online and constantly put their whole butthole in your face on the internet, I don't believe in the idea, the concept that it's ever going to be this place that is reliable and predictable. And you'll always be able to count on the same people being there. It's more of a internet video I don't know. I don't like the concept. I really am very averse to the concept of having there be like a separate class for people who use the internet to to make videos. Just call yourself a video maker, because when I made videos in the past, this was never about you're trying to make a career out of it. I guess because there is money to be made now, they're making they're making an official title to things and trying to make it seem like you're a legitimate professional, versus being some random person making stuff on the internet, which has always been the case. You never knew who the guy was. He's just some dude somewhere in the middle of Alaska doing some kooky crap and making some stuff up on the internet. Who knows? Who knows? But I don't really know. My mind is fried right now. I can tell you this. I've just now done something that I never thought I would do in the time that I've been trying to get it done. And it's bittersweet. It's great, but it's like the amount of sacrifice and pain that I had to go through and the money I've spent to get it to this point is just the worst. And I learned a lot, and that's really kind of the key. It's just so I'm stressed out beyond measure, especially today, having gotten my. I don't even want to talk about it. I did some very tough thing to get a brand new GPU so that I can continue to play games on my computer. So my computer is now functional and back up and running at 100%. Just to let you know what the story was, I was one day just waking up, turning my computer on, went upstairs to take a shower or something, whatever. Usually I just let things be. I don't really think about it. I think I became I'm always worried about the computer busting, blowing up, because it's a very old, crappy, kind of chinky little computer, and it doesn't run smoothly. It's a very Windows kind of computer, and you know how those are. They're always full of crap. So I went upstairs to take a shower, and I was just chilling. I didn't think anything of it. So I come downstairs, and the computer screen is off. I figure, whatever, that's what I'd set it to do. I have it in a sleep mode state whenever you leave it idle. So it went to sleep. I pressed the power button, and it doesn't just, usually when it goes to sleep, it goes back to the OS. It does not go to a reboot of the entire OS. So the first indication that something was wrong was that it rebooted. It didn't just sleep mode and then came back to life and lock screen, you go right to the computer. No. It rebooted from the top, BIOS, and then it started to go through the post process. Not post, but OS initiation. So I assumed it was just acting weird, whatever. This computer is kind of sketchy. It always does weird stuff. And then it started to start up like normal. I thought, okay, good. It showed me the sign-in screen and it's ready to go. And then the screen died. The computer kept going. You could hear it turn on, and the music and everything was going. That, login music. Computer was going, still working, but the screen turned off. And that really kind of made me say, what the? So, of course, now I'm in panic mode, and I'm thinking something's going on. And I turn it off, and I turn it on again to see what's going on. Then the BIOS screen comes up. It looks like it's going to boot fine. It goes to the log-on screen. And then it does the same exact thing again. As soon as it's about to start the Windows system, computer shuts the screen off. The screen goes. And then I figure, okay, that's fine. If the GPU is kind of flaking out on me, I'll switch things over to the HDMI port on the back end, on the integrated graphics in the motherboard. I'll just switch it over and try to diagnose the issue with the computer, even though the GPU is kind of flaking out right now. I can understand that. My GPU sometimes has problems sometimes, and my computer has been having problems for a while. It's been randomly restarting. Sometimes you'd be in the middle of just chilling, doing something, and then it would randomly turn off and then restart. That was concerning, but I still used it as normal. I didn't have a problem. I had no idea that there was a lot more wrong with my computer than I initially thought. This was not even just a GPU issue. This went far beyond that. So I kept pressing the button to turn it on, kept restarting it over and over and over again, and it kept repeating the process of showing the BIOS screen and then going to the OS and then losing the display. And then it just didn't turn on again. At some point, I pressed the button and nothing happened. It kind of started a little bit, it jolted, and then it just died. And it would do that for a little bit, one or two times, and then ultimately the next time I pressed the button, it literally stopped turning on and just said, I'm out, I'm done. So I figure the power supply has died. I can understand that. Power supply is not the best. I have been running so many drives, so many fans, so many USB peripherals. It's probably been pushing the power supply to its limits. And I assumed, okay, my power supply sucks. So I'm not really, the computer's power supply has just lost its ability to work. And I go upstairs, I actually take the power supply out. And I look online for some reason how you can test whether a power supply is dead or not. I do the test to find out whether the power supply works or not. You put the pins in, or a paper clip into the two ports. You plug it in, you turn it on. If the fan spins, it's still good. It still has power going through all the shit in there. So I did it on the PSU I have. I took it all out, all screwed out. I went upstairs, checked it, and the thing spun up. So I figured, okay, the power supply is fine. And then I plugged it all back in. I plugged the power supply back in. I just say, okay, let's see what happens when I press the power button. The power supply is not the problem. I figured maybe a power connector might have gotten loose, and that's why it seemed to not work. I don't know. I press it again, and this time, immediately, the power supply pops. What the hell? It just goes, I see a spark come from it, and that tells me something's really, really wrong. This computer has gone straight to hell. And that really devastated me, and that fucked me up, man. It was just like, this is it. My computer is dead. What am I going to do to finish my project? What am I going to do to put in applications for jobs? What am I going to do? I can't do any gaming anymore. And I used to run this thing into the ground playing games. So, sadly, this was very bad. The only thing I have to access the web is my phone now. I can't watch all. I was sitting there watching TNG for days and days and days. I was just watching episode after episode trying to get through the series. Can't do that anymore, and that devastated me severely. I was like, damn. I have not even watched the last episode of TNG yet. I'm still. And now Patrick Stewart's coming back as Picard, and I have never even actually sat and watched TNG all the way through. So that, it's changed now. But I'll tell you how I got my computer back. And it's an odyssey. It's a freaking odyssey. I did all the research I could on what could be the reason for this computer to not work. Ultimately, I reasoned the PSU, power supply, was dead. It died. It had its lifespan. The capacitors and stuff in it blew up, and now I needed to just replace it. Okay, I was fine with that. I had money from, I sold my car. I had a couple $100. I could afford new computer components. I don't have a job right now, and I'm just kind of just drifting along in life. But I could afford a new PSU, cheap as hell. So I went to my favorite place, Newegg, and I did a ton of research on quality PSUs, where to buy the bronze and platinum and gold ones. People basically said, go with bronze. Not that much better, not that much of a difference thing. You're going to be all right. So I settled on a $50-something bronze PSU because I don't have money to throw away. I'm not going to get no elite stuff. If I had the money, I would. I would definitely go for the best top-of-the-line PSU. And I'm hoping that this new one can handle. It's semi-modular. I'm not too much of a fan of the modular because I don't want that damn connection to somehow get loose and come out when you're in the middle of anything. So this thing has a permanent power connector to the board, and everything else is modular pretty much. I think that's a good setup. So I kept on forging forward, figuring out things, and I bought the new PSU, came in the mail, and I love purchasing from Newegg. I don't want to make this an advertisement for them, but they ship so fast, and from my experience with them, just beautiful. They sent something I ordered to my address when I was in Canada, near Canada. When you live in Niagara Falls, you're living in Canada. So no, there is no not in Canada. You're living in Canada, but they had my old address on file, so they sent my package over there to that address. Whoever's living there now got my package. I informed them of the issue, and they actually decided to send another one to me here. And that was just beautiful. So I really love them. They kind of had to send two, So I continued to use their service. They sent it right away, quick, came, and I plugged it in, hoping for the best. Said, okay, this is it, brand new power supply. I did a test on it, made sure, because this is a used power supply. They sell used stuff, so this is a used power supply. This comes from some computer somewhere that they took apart and decided to sell the components of it. So this is a used power supply. It looked good and new and fresh to me. I don't think it was any use at all. Probably somebody bought it from a store, used it for 5 seconds, and then sent it back, and they consider it used. That is weird. My mouse is moving for no reason. It's just moving. I guess there's like dust particles under the lens kind of jumping around, so it's messing with it. We're gonna get to dust in a second. So the Odyssey continued. I plugged the power supply into the motherboard. I was happy as ever. I was thinking this is gonna be great. I'm gonna just have a great time playing video games again. There's nothing wrong with my life. Only $55 and I fixed my computer. Only $55? Yay! Press the power button. Computer's dead. Still. No power. And I did whatever I could to figure out the power supply was dead or it was servicing power. I have an older E-Machines computer that it's very old. It sucks. It's components in it, everything is from early 2000s. It's real old. So, not even early 2000s. It's like on the cusp of the 90s almost. But I decided to throw the PSU in there and see if it would power that machine up. Yeah, it works. It's good to go. So this was really weird. The PSU is fine. It actually does provide power to a motherboard. So I put it into my motherboard and it just doesn't work. It goes kaput. Just nothing. So then I'm just like, the thing that I dreaded all along was that my CPU died. That the power surge from the PSU went into the CPU and screwed it up. And if a computer does not have a functioning CPU in it, typically, it will not even turn on. Nothing. You will get nothing. If it can't detect the CPU is in there and functional, it will not even turn on. Because it basically has no reason to. What's the point? I say typically because I have actually tried one of my motherboards that I bought way back years ago, and without any CPU in it, and it did turn on, but it didn't go to any kind of BIOS screen, nothing. It basically just ran the fans and everything. The power supply was running the fans as if it was turning on, but didn't go to anywhere. It just stopped. It figured out there was no CPU real quick and just stopped doing anything. But yeah, most computers will never even turn off if there's no CPU. So I figured, damn, I'm in complete, utter this is the worst case scenario. I was worried about I read online, if the power supply blows up like that, it can indeed send such a massive shock through the motherboard that it will just kill your CPU. I figured that was the case. Okay. Or the motherboard itself is fried. That's another possibility. If the motherboard is just dead now and the things in it are all blown up, I figured, okay, that would be. This is the issue with computers now. Whenever you have a computer of any kind, a billion things are happening inside of that machine that have to work in unity for it to even function normally. So, if one thing's out of step, one little tiny screw is out of place, it'll just be no good. So, it could have been the PSU being bad. It could have been the motherboard being bad. That has happened too. It could have been my CPU being bad, and then it would not work. I never considered the GPU being bad because the GPU is just a GPU. It's an outside thing from the motherboard. So my first instinct was, okay, the motherboard's bad because I don't want to even think that my chip is bad. I spent a lot of money on that chip. I don't think from what I've read, that's the last thing to go on a computer, chip. So I thought, okay, that's not it. People have been saying online motherboards do get so surged up by power they can fry them. So I figured the motherboard's bad. I think a military grade motherboard, it just loses its shit like that. That's terrible. Anyway, I actually go out and I take the bitter pill and I buy a whole new motherboard, same exact one. Now I buy a new one. Find the cheapest price possible, $88. I utilize the money that I've been making from my caviar runs. And, when you go out for interviews for jobs, which I've been doing a lot, you spend money to take the train and thing all the way there. So my money kept going down, down, down to where I only had enough for so much. So I eventually had I wasn't swimming in money, but I kept getting money from my father and thing like that for go buy some food and stuff. So I just saved it and I didn't spend it on food. And whenever I went out to do caviar, saved that money, and I had enough to buy a new motherboard. And I'm thinking I fixed everything. This is going to be great. Because the motherboard might be bad, that's a problem. And I don't want to replace the motherboard really, because replacing a motherboard is an extremely difficult thing to do. It is, especially this computer here, it's not designed to be simple to replace anything on the motherboard. All the crap on that thing is so dangerous to replace. But I'm willing to go through the hell to get it to work, because I need to play my freaking GTA, man. I need to play my freaking Battlefront, man. I can't live without that stuff. And I want to finish static, and I want to be able to do job applications. I can't do a job application on this damn phone. It's not going to work. So I take all the bitter pill I can. I pay $88 plus shipping for the motherboard from a USA seller. I think, okay, USA seller, that's good. I'm not gonna have to wait for it to come from weeks and weeks from some freaking place over in Asia. Turns out this seller is pretending to be a USA seller, but they really are shipping some sort of mediator between China and here. So they're gonna ship things from China to the United States from their website. So I overlooked all the cheaper eBay listings of the motherboard so that I could get the little tiny bit more expensive one from a USA seller, and that they shipped it from freaking China. So that was disappointing as hell. And they gave me my little tracking thing so I could track it, and I tracked it, and it was over in China for a while. Finally crossed overseas. And I sent it in such a thin ass package, so if somebody in the shipping thing went just when I deal with packages on going on flights from JFK, I used to work the mail at JFK. I don't care. You better pack that thing with some foam. So we dropped stuff all the time. We stepped on it. We sat on it. Went on break. Just sat on your stuff. So looking at the packages they sent it in, I knew if somebody effed with it when they was just getting it through the process, it probably didn't survive it. So I had to thoroughly inspect it when I looked at it. Somehow it didn't look too bad. It looked okay. But there's always a possibility it would not work either now that it went through. They didn't pack it in nothing really tough. It was really packed in this thin bubble wrap that didn't protect it from being crushed if somebody wanted to screw it up. But it made it through all that, going from China to here, and it looks very good, and it doesn't look like it has any kind of issues. So I said, okay, that's good. I took the time to completely plug in all of my components from my other motherboard into this one. I did the meticulous surgery that it takes to do that, and I plugged in everything, all the switches. I did everything I could. And I pressed the power button on the computer with all the glee and happiness and feeling that I actually got my computer back up and running. Nothing. So what does that mean? When you replace the entire motherboard and it still won't turn on. Either the motherboard I got now is bad, or the ultimate reason, the CPU is dead. And this motherboard will not work if the CPU is not working. So I spend the next weeks, this is weeks now, not even days, thinking, okay, all I have to do now to get my computer back up and functional is get a new CPU. So I begin my search. I don't want to get my high-end $200, this is how much I spent on it, this is not a joke, CPU back up, and I don't want to get my i5 4 something, 400 something. That's really, this is a top tier freaking Intel. This is not no baby Intel I'm using. I'm using the top of the line thing. I didn't go i7 at the time because I figured it's not as good as people say it is, so I didn't bother with that. But yeah, this is a really good, tough balls i5 Intel CPU. I figured, okay, I don't want to go down that road right now. I just want to be able to test whether my computer can work. So I look at all kinds of CPUs in the price ranges of about $20 to $60 maximum. I figure, okay, I don't have that much money right now. I'm maxed out at around 40. But if I go and I give it some time, I can save up $20 more for a $60 CPU or something. So I settle on a few choices. I might get the i3 at $30. I'll try out these auctions for CPUs that are selling at around maximum $40 on the auction. And these are somewhere around i3, somewhere around i5, lower end i5. And I waited out for the auctions to end. This is going to take time. And I waited out. I actually bid $40 odd for a CPU that I was hoping to get. Someone outbidded me, and I said, okay, let it go. That's fine. I don't have to get my intention was to get an i5 again, because you need minimum i5 to play Battlefront. And I figured get an i5 and I can still play Battlefront, at least. Not as powerful as before, but it'll be playable. And I just continue to wait it out and try to find a cheap i5. Fact is, cheap i5 doesn't exist. People are very much grabbing up those i5 quad cores at whatever price they can get it at, and they're willing to pay for it. So finding a cheap i5 is a lucky bet. So I'm just gonna get a CPU that's okay. I don't need to worry about that. But I've been down this road before, so from experience, I said, okay, don't ever assume the CPU is dead. What happened last time was I didn't know if the board was bad, because I bought a motherboard online. This is a different one. I bought like a, whatever the hell, some sort of MSI motherboard. And I was trying to, I had a computer. This computer was originally an AMD computer, AMD chip, AMD GPU. I wanted to switch over completely to Intel. So my first motherboard I bought, I did a decent price, and then I bought the CPU, $200 CPU, and I said, okay, let me just put the CPU in, get the thermal paste on it, all that crap, do it all, and then we're good. Computer don't work at all. So I didn't know what the problem was. I was completely confused. I figured, okay, the CPU might be bad, or somehow the motherboard's bad, even though it's a pretty good motherboard and it seemed like it was good. And I assumed the CPU was bad all that time, because the motherboard looked fine, but when it came down to it, after all the hoopla, the CPU was fine. There was just, I bought a motherboard that somehow had a bent pin, and since it didn't connect fully to the CPU, it wouldn't turn on. I don't even know what happened to that motherboard. But ultimately, I bought another motherboard, and I didn't even want to use, since I went through a lot of drama with that, because that devastated me to not really be able to get the computer running, and I didn't know if it was because the pin might have been a little bent, but it wasn't dramatic. It did indeed look like it was going to be fine and connect to the CPU. So to not have it turn on really made me think the CPU chip was bad. So I sent the I sent it to a repair guy. Back then I had a job, so I didn't have a problem paying them to diagnose the problem, fix it, repair the computer, get it to work, get it to show up on the screen and post, as they call it. And that's what I did. He did a diagnostic on the chip to find out whether it was good or not. He put it in a different motherboard. The chip turned out to be perfectly fine. And that was a huge relief, because what that meant was that my chip that I spent $200 on was not the problem. So that was like 2 years ago. So I come to this situation now and I'm thinking, okay, my chip is definitely the problem. And I say, that's it, I give up. I'll buy a new chip. But at the last minute, before putting the money down on buying a $30 cheap as hell LG 1150 CPU, I decided I will test the chip in this backup motherboard that I bought many years ago, way back when I was struggling to find out how I can build a proper gaming rig. I bought a cheap little motherboard off of Newegg that could fit the LG 50 socket to test whether my CPU worked or not. But I wasn't confident in my ability to figure that whole thing out, so I settled on giving it to the repair guy to do. But I still had the motherboard. I never really got around to selling it. That's just laziness. But I decided, okay, put the chip in that board, put the power supply in that board, put the memory RAM inside of that board. I know the OS isn't going to start up properly because it's a completely different motherboard. I know that. But if I can get the thing to start and show me that the CPU is fully functional, that means I'm going to save a lot of money on CPUs. That's exactly what I did, and freaking to my shock, the computer just went zip zip, turned on, BIOS showed up on the screen, and it was the first time that motherboard was ever brought to life for me. So it was very welcoming. It was like trying to say, okay, this is your first time using this motherboard, set it up, this and that. I didn't want to do all that. So I finally got the thing to damn well work. The motherboard, all my problems were like, there's no reason at all to buy a new CPU. My CPU is fine. And the next step of things was trying to figure out why both of my motherboards, my other motherboards, this is two, both of them don't work. I figured, okay, let's reverse things. Let's go back to the new motherboard I bought, put all the components back into it, and try to get that to run. And I do all that crap, and I push the power button with all the hope in the world that it's just going to randomly work. Now, even though it's the same exact configuration as it was when it didn't work, and no, it didn't work. So I'm just puzzled. My chip works fine in one motherboard, doesn't work fine in this motherboard. What the hell is preventing my computer from turning on and working? And I figure, okay, I only put one RAM in the other motherboard. Maybe I got bad RAM. Could be that. I take the RAM out. That didn't work. So ultimately, it came down to trying to just, what I did lastly was just randomly try to figure out why my thought process was the power switches were wrong. I meticulously studied how to put the power switches in, and I thought I did it right. But you never know. I just randomly decided to put them anywhere. I decided to put them wherever. And not wherever like that, but I decided to flip them over. Maybe that would do it. And I decided also to just kind of leave the GPU to the side this time because I'm lazy. I don't want to have to stick that thing in all the time. I breadboard. This is what they call it when you don't really hook up anything seriously to a motherboard. You just kind of want to see if you can get it to work with bare minimum components attached. So with the motherboard just kind of laying outside of the case and next to the power supply plugged in, everything plugged in, I decided to give it a shot. Press the power button. Boom. Because I know the CPU is good. Damn thing turns on and works. And from that point forward, I figured it out real quick that whenever the GPU was plugged into the board, the GPU was preventing it from turning on. And that shocked the hell out of me. Because, and there's more problems than that. It's a world of more problems that I was going to have to leap over. This video's going on too long. I don't know if I'm going to get to them. But, yeah, that really opened my eyes to the fact that if your GPU suddenly dies, and I immediately did my research on it, and this is seriously the reason why your computer will not turn on. Similar to the CPU, if your CPU is inactive and not working, your computer will die and not turn on. If the GPU is not good anymore, you can have the best CPU in the world in the computer and all the proper things necessary to run the computer without the GPU. If it's plugged into it, your computer will make some sort of system check to analyze whether the GPU is functional, and if it's not, it won't turn on. I guess it's a safety measure to figure out if it's gonna just power surge or not, and they implemented some kind of safety to not turn on the computer anyway if the computer does a little quick check to see if the GPU is not working. So there it was. I figured it out. Ultimately, I'll make it quick. I decided to try to run the computer without the GPU in it from now on. Plug it into the HDMI port in the back and just run it like that. Fine. I'm done with the GPU. Forget it. I hoped a little bit that I could get the GPU to just work because maybe it was just in wrong or something. No, it's really dead. But it turns out that my computer was really seriously in need of service. The water cooler fan in the back, a radiator system back there, I noticed that there's bits of dust peeking out the side. I thought nothing of it. I go in there and I open it up to just take a look, and it's caked. Practically a little tiny squib of a hole for air to flow through. It's completely covered in dust. That blew me away. How is this thing possibly working? So there you go for that. And I had this issue with turning the computer on. It randomly turned on and off and on and off. And I figured, okay, now this thing's really messed up. I figured I put the reset switch in the wrong hole and it was constantly resetting itself. Nah, that wasn't it. Turns out if your RAM is in the wrong slot or not inserted properly and kind of lopsided or whatever, it will go through this loop boot situation. Try to boot, and then nah, I'm not gonna boot. I'll try to boot, nah, I'm not gonna boot. So after all that drama, all that bull crap, I realized the problem was the GPU. GPU was not functional, and that prevented everything. So I would have saved money if I knew that beforehand. I would have not bothered buying a new motherboard. PSU is dead too. So two things died, and I think they killed each other. The PSU blew up and they took the GPU with it. And somehow, some way, I struggled and I worked very hard. And now my computer's back up and running. It's ready to go. I cleaned out all the fans. I got the fans nice and clean, and I've never been more feeling like I wasted a lot of money, but I am very content that now I can watch Next Generation and finish off video games, play emulators, do everything I wanted to do. And that's the end of this video. That's the end of this odyssey I went on, the hectic bullcrap I went through. And keep your radiators clean. Make sure your GPU doesn't get any water on it. That's probably why it failed. Water leaked from the ceiling, went down on top of the GPU and fried its circuits. And if that's the case, try not to do any kind of, if a GPU looks like it's failing, take it out. Just take it out. Because if I did that, I would have not spent money on a new power supply. I think the GPU failing actually blew my power or something. But at least because of this situation, I actually had to go into the computer and clean it and get the dust out of it. This thing was just, I left it in my room just working, and if it worked, I didn't care what was in it. I knew that because I had it the way it was probably sucking dust up all day. I had no idea that it had that much freaking dust in it. So maintenance is key with a computer, and take care of it, and it take care of you. You know what I mean? That's it for tonight. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm busted. I went through a lot today. I can get back to working on static now, and you shall see static on the release of glass. I'm gonna try to get it out on glass. We're not there yet. I still got ways to go to get this thing up and running. This thing, I don't have much time left, and I'm gonna just throw this up on the boob tube. That's it. No more wasting your time. That's it.